Good afternoon, everyone. We appreciate you being here. I'm Susan Nyland with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. We're going to get started right in talking to some of the key players who can give you a status update on the search for Mr. Wallace. Sheriff?
All right, thank you, and I appreciate y'all being out here. I know that my PIO has been in contact with the news media, and the biggest thing that we wanted to do is to make sure that the public got information that they needed so they could feel a sense of security. I just want to report that we do have many resources on the scene that are helping us with this endeavor to locate this person one way or the other. And I know that we have folks from all over the state that are helping us. And I know you see some of those gentlemen up here today. And I don't want to get into naming too many names because I know I will forget somebody. But we have had sheriffs here with their boots on the ground doing what needs to be done. When we have a lot of knowledge in the command post that are helping us to guide those resources to bring this thing to a resolution. So I want to thank the community. The community has been very helpful in bringing resources to us at the command post and here at the PIO staging area, which has been very beneficial to us. That way we could focus our resources on actually getting the job done. So I want to thank you for that. Of course, Montgomery County and Stewart County both, we're neighbors. We're working together to bring resolution to this, and it's not an easy task. We get a lot of tips from the public that we screen through, and we run down each and every one of those to try to find if there's any information to turn it over and locate, what that information may lead us to and run it down to the end. We do still have a hard perimeter set up around, and Sandra has sent that out to the public and the news media. We have redirected that perimeter, and that is on our Facebook page, and you will have access to that. That way the folks that live in that community know that we still are holding a hard perimeter where folks will be able to get in if they live in the area. We don't want to encourage people to just drive through because we do still believe that he's in this area. We don't want to have any other victims. So if you would, just follow up on that road closure, and if you don't live in that area, please just know that we are going to turn you around if you come through there. For folks that do live through there, we want to make sure that you get home safely. So please be patient with us. That's our number one priority, is your safety. It's exactly why we're doing all of this. So with that said, I can't think of anything else that I could pass on. I know that what we have to do is very important to me. It's very important to the safety of our community. And I just want to make sure that you know that we are doing everything that we possibly can. And we have been afforded resources from all over the state to get it done. And I just want to thank in part these gentlemen that are standing up here and helping us get that done. And so with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Gray. I know he's got a few things that he wants to say, and we'll go from there. So thank you.
As Sheriff Fuson said, obviously our search is continuing. Unfortunately, it is slow at some points because of just the sheer terrain and obstacles that we're facing in just the geographical area. As I speak, I have multiple jurisdictional teams that are searching areas right now, cabins, some dense forest wooded areas. And unfortunately, it's slow and it takes some time. But we want to make sure that we do not overlook anything, that we not miss anything. And also, like Sheriff Fuson said, we've got a lot of knowledge back at our command post, a lot of officers and a lot of law enforcement experience, and we're relying on those. We are committed to the task of bringing Mr. Kirby in for justice. And I definitely want to thank the community for its generous and continuous support of food, water, supplies to our agencies. It's truly been a blessing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I also want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for the media for covering this very tragic event for us. I have to extend my kudos to both Sheriff Fuson and Sheriff Gray for their efforts in making sure that this is a very well planned out event, and that has gone extremely well. The citizens of the state of Tennessee should know that this is a team effort. This is a very coordinated state, local, and federal a group of individuals is working together to try to bring this to a peaceful resolve. The THP is dedicated to be here to bring this to a peaceful resolution, if possible. We have over 50 THP personnel is here. We have aviation assets that are here. So the citizens are going to hear aircraft all around the clock until we can bring this to a close. But again, I want to extend my sympathies to the family members that may have been lost during this event. And I want to thank all of our partners, both our federal and our state and our local partners, for them to working together in order to bring this to a peaceful resolve if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has assets and agents on scene to assist our law enforcement partners. I've been very encouraged by what I've seen from the community and everyone working together. I've seen people bring food nonstop, these law enforcement officers. I think everyone wants to help, and we appreciate the news and the coverage to get the word out. Mr. Wallace is a dangerous individual, and please no one approach him. If you see him, please contact your local law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. If you have any specific questions that you'd like to direct of one of the specific individuals up here, just mention what the topic is, which agency or who the individual is, and we'll try to get your questions answered as best we can.
Can I do one thing? I'm not from here. Can I get everyone's name so I have it right?
Can we get that for you when we have it in just a moment here, so we don't slow down the questions that anyone might have? Sure.
Anyone talked to this man?
Oh.
Yes, the contact with the family has been made. I know that there's still some other family members in other parts of the state that she's trying to get a hold of, and she had requested that I not release that at this time, and I'm going to honor that for her. So if you could just bear with us, but just out of her request, I'm not going to release that at this time.
Sheriff, yesterday there seemed to be a quick connection between Wallace and the shooting. Can you share some of the things that may have connected him to that crime? What did you find there?
Certainly, just at the onset, it's the geography of where it all occurred. I know that we had, identified him as coming off of the ferry. He did elude police in Stewart County and crashed. So he was identified there, and just him being in the space that he was in the area where that happened and where this happened on Welker Road yesterday morning leads us to believe that. Now, of course, that there's evidence that was collected at the scene that will be analyzed, and it's been sent to the TBI lab to be analyzed, as well as the truck that was taken from there that will conclude what we already know. So I can leave it there. I know that I am utmost certain that this is the same individual, but that will be solidified later on through the evaluation of the evidence.
Sheriff Edward Birch with News 4. Have you questioned any of his associates or friends here in the area?
Of course. We're turning every angle. We're working every end of this to try to find out where he may be or anything that would give us any clues of where he may be. I don't know if you've noticed down the road, we've got resources from all over the state and from other states as well. So we are coordinating those resources and using the intelligence that we're getting from the community and from other sources to find out, what we need to do to bring him in. So absolutely.
Sheriff Stephen Cotton with News 2. Has it been completely ruled out that no one is helping him at all as he's on the run?
I don't think we can rule out anything. I think at this point we're evaluating every piece of information that we get. So we can't rule out anything. And I know that we do have a hard perimeter. I feel very confident on the perimeter that we have, and I feel very confident about the direction that we're going. But no, we cannot rule out anything at this point.
Could you please go through the time frame as to when you started looking for this guy, just the events? Because I've seen some discrepancy in some of the reports.
Well, I don't know what discrepancy you have, but I know the timelines that I gave to our PIO that we sent out were confirmed with what our 911 log will reflect, and that is of the initial 911 call from the home on Welker Road, the information that the caller had about what they heard and seen, and of course, from the time that we located the truck on Frankie Road to the time that we deployed resources and secured off the area. So that is in our 911 logs, and it was done in the previous press conference that we had. So those timelines are, I'm comfortable with those.
Sheriff, this is for you or either of the gentlemen. Wallace knows this area, very familiar with
That's
it.
right.
How much does that complicate your search? Because it seems like he knows where to hide.
Well, I can speak to part of that, and I'll let Sheriff Gray mention. I know that he does have ties in Montgomery and Stewart County, but we have people that are also very familiar with the area. And we're doing very well with the information that we've got, and we're turning over areas that people might not think we're aware of. So I think that looking at that, it does, of course, complicate things a little, but we have people with that information as well. So that's my take on that. If Sheriff Gray wants to add anything else to that, certainly he can.
Well, certainly he's familiar with the area. Obviously, he's lived here in Stewart County and Montgomery County, both places. And he grew up in Stewart County, so he's familiar with it. That makes it a little bit tougher. We've got also people that know their area. How much he knows of the train after we get off the road, I don't know. But he does know the people who live in the area, and if he has any idea of anybody that might give him assistance, he knows where they live. So it makes it a little bit harder because it's a guessing game for us. But he's familiar with the area, but like I said, we're pretty familiar with everything. How much he knows of the area after he gets off the roadway, I can't answer that.
How big is the search area that you guys are doing?
As far as a square mileage, I haven't figured that up, but as a, if I were to put a guess on it, I would say that, we're within, a mile and a half and a 2-mile radius from where Frankie Road and Cumberland City Road are. Of course, we're turning over every leaf and looking as thoroughly as possible with the resources that we have, but we're also thinking outside of the box where some of the information may lead us, so we're trying to stay a step ahead of that too. So
You'd say about a 2 mile?
I would say 2 mile. Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up. I know that THP and TBI both mentioned about air support that we've had out here, and I certainly know, and I mentioned at the last press conference about coverage from news helicopters. I know that y'all have a job to do to get information to the public, and we appreciate that, but sometimes that may get in the way of the resources that are out there trying to locate him. So I can just respectfully say that, if you see those guys in the air, please give them plenty of room. Also, the information that you're recording, it may be information that's critical to us locating this individual. So just be cognizant of that, and I would appreciate that, and I know both victims would appreciate that as well.
So in that, the areas that you have blocked off, is it that same 2 miles that you're talking about, or is it a larger?
I would say in general it's probably the same, and I know that I was talking about having resources go through that area and very, very thoroughly turn over every leaf in those areas, check every hole, every culvert, every creek, every tree before we release that perimeter. And that kind of goes back to what I was talking about a while ago about ensuring that we have that thing nailed down to where we don't see anything like this happen again. So if that answers your question.
Sheriff, this is for you or THP. There was a lot of talk yesterday about thermal imaging used by the helicopters to possibly look for the suspect. Can you comment on that at all?
Sure. We are certainly using FLIR capabilities in order to try to locate a heat signature. That's part of our strategy. Our goal is to use that technology to the best of our abilities.
If I could just one last question, I know
Sure.
we're closing up.
You're right.
Just 2 responses from anyone up there. 1, if Kirby Wallace is watching, and 2, for those living in this area as we go into the nighttime. Just response to both of those.
Well, I know both Montgomery and Stewart counties have skin in the game with that, so I think it would be a question for both of us. You know, I think as far as if Kirby were watching this, you know, the only thing I could tell him is to do the right thing. Let's end this the right way. But one way or the other, you're coming in. We're going to drag you in, kicking or screaming. One way or the other, we're going to have you in here, and we do have resources here to make that happen. We want to bring this down peacefully, so you could do yourself a favor and turn yourself in, and we can make and bring an end to this. I know you're tired. I know that you're in the woods and you don't have much to do with, but just turn yourself in, and we'll bring this thing to a resolution. As far as nighttime, family members, we cannot stress enough for them to stay focused on what's going on around them and their properties. Just know that we are out there, and we are using the information that we got to keep them as safe as possible. So just know that, but we do want you to pay attention and report those things that you hear that might sound a little different. You know, you're used to what's going on in your area. If something doesn't seem right, call it in and we'll check it out. That goes back to the every stone and every leaf thing that I talked about a while ago. So with that said, that's mine on the Montgomery County side.
Let me say this, Mr. Wallace, if he's watching, or his family or friends, Mr. Wallace, if he has contact with you, he represents a threat to and a danger to you, his friends and his family. And I'll tell this, I don't expect my officers, and I don't expect any other officers here to take any chances with this subject if he's confronted.
Thank you, gentlemen. We want to thank you, too, on behalf of the agencies that are represented here. And we